All right, if you have a 3rd gen Dodge Ram like this one and you do not have defrost, you're going to want to watch this video. I've done a few of these. Most of the time it's the same problem, and this one kind of threw me for a loop a little bit. Had to take more stuff apart than I wanted to. I wanted to make a short on this to kind of show how to do it the quicker way and get it fixed, and it turned into a little bit longer. It still is better than pulling the dash, and it's an option for kind of the DIYer who doesn't have a lot of money in the truck, personal truck, buddy's truck on the weekend that you don't want to sink a bunch of money into or have someone pull the dash, or pull the dash yourself. If you don't have the time, this video is for you. So let's go inside here. I'll show you what I found. So I've got it mostly tore apart. A lot of the videos don't show people tearing the trim and stuff off because it's extremely easy. So you typically have in this area the center console. It's just a bunch of screws. It's screws all along the bottom, along the side. If it doesn't come out, you missed a screw. It's that simple. Find the screws, you'll pop the whole trim panel out, you'll pull the center console out. If it doesn't pop apart or doesn't have screws, it should just pop apart. So typically on these, if you don't want to pull the dash and it's your middle actuator right here, if you go on here on this white piece, typically that breaks on the inside on the door, and this white piece on the actuator will just spin in circles and it won't actually do anything, and you won't have defrost. So what you do, and you can't hardly even tell until I show you and zoom in, to get to this actuator without having to pull everything apart, really you don't need to do much. When you get the bottom panel out, you should be able to get all these bolts out. I originally just trimmed back here with a little Dremel just to have more access before I pulled the whole bottom out, because I didn't want to have to pull the bottom off because it's usually this actuator, but I had to in this case. Not a big deal, still didn't take that long. But if it's just this actuator, you can quite literally pull your one trim panel off in this HVAC or the climate control switches out, and you take a Dremel, zip that out, and 2 bolts, pull it out. So this one, for some reason, didn't have a bolt here, and neither did the other actuator, so I'm assuming somebody's been in here. It's got a new blower motor. I'm not sure what they were fighting before. It initially didn't have heat. We flushed the heater core out, thermostat, and it got great heat now. Still no defrost, which in the wintertime is not ideal. You just, eventually it will defrost, but it's not ideal for through the winter. You can't see anything. So that is your mode 1 actuator. This one down here is your mode 2. So mode 2 actuator, it's upside down, still can read it. Same deal. The problem with it, you can't get to it. So you can go up in here from your driver's side floorboard, and you can actually, it's gone now, so this was the piece. So there's a bunch of videos on this, but all of them are for that center actuator. This is the piece that goes into your HVAC box, and then your actuator right here, let me flip around, goes into this stubby shaft here. The shaft goes into your blend door that just opens and closes. So typically, the reason I think there's not a lot of videos on this is I think you can kind of see when I zoom in here, I don't get the right angle, you can see where it is actually broken. So if I can zoom in and get this to focus, it's not going to focus. It's trying to focus on the wire. Maybe I can just zoom in. Oh yeah, there we go. So it's broken. As you can see, it's cracked on the top side. What was weird is usually when these break, the blend door falls down and you have defrost. So what I'm getting at here is when the middle actuator breaks, it falls down and prevents you from having defrost. When the bottom left actuator usually breaks, it'll fall down and you will still have defrost. You just won't have the option to have only floor anymore. If you switch it to floor, you still have floor and defrost. In my case, it didn't fall down, which is the point of the video. Front heat. So everything still works in this case. If you want to do it like this, like I said, and not pull your dash out to just pull the whole HVAC box out or replace these actuators or replace the blend doors, this is a better option, quicker option. You can have it done in an hour or two. So even though I pulled a bunch more stuff out, it still only took me about an hour. Like I said, it's just a bunch of screws, nothing major. What I had to do, and people aren't going to really agree with it, but it doesn't change anything at all. Here, bolts to right here. When it's all the way up here, you have no room to get this actuator out. Unbolted it, 2 bolts, took a pry bar, bent it out like 2 inches, 3 inches maybe, max. Not a big deal. You're gonna bolt this thing back down, all your trim's gonna go back over it. You're never gonna notice anything. It's not going to change the structural integrity of it because it's not going anywhere. You didn't cut into the metal at all. You're going to be fine. This is a great option, like I said. What was weird about this one, it broke, but it was stuck like up, and it was spinning. Like this was actually spinning. So gravity on these blend doors, it falls down, and then now I have defrost. This was still moving, but the blend door was just jammed, stuck up. So in this somehow, I'm not sure what actually happened, but either way, as soon as I pop that, you know, this goes up in here, sits up in the HVAC box like this. If you take a flathead like right here, it'll just pop it out, right? Popped it out, I heard the blend door drop. Turn it on now. Turn the key on here. Turn it on now. Turn it to defrost. And I have great defrost now. I also still have front vents. I still have floor vents. I made 0 sense in this section of the video. The point I was getting at here and pointing at is that the side vents will still work if you don't have defrost because they're tied into your floor vents. So that can get confusing when you're trying to diagnose something like this. So in my case, I just wanted to point that out for people because it just didn't make any sense to what I was explaining in the video. Diagnose this. Like I said, this is just kind of weird for me. Almost always, it's this middle one, this mode 1 actuator, almost always breaks. And the blend door falls and you have to go in there, and the quick fix to that, like I said, is you just take a Dremel, cut this section out, and you basically will go in there with a coat hanger or whatever you have to swipe that door up, and then you'll just put a self-tapping screw in the HVAC box with some silicone to hold the door up. Like I said, it's not a professional fix. This is something to get you by, especially if you live in somewhere it's very cold and you don't want to pull this. It's your only vehicle, and it's, you know, not a big deal. It's not a 2025 Ram. It is a 03. You know, it's not a big deal. If you don't want to do it like that, don't pull the dash out. It don't matter. Whatever you want to do to fix it. If this helps the next person out, that's the point of it. So, like I said. So I got a little off topic on this part. I was just explaining that in most videos, the actuator that is in the center, people just trim out that spot in the plastic to get to it without having to do a bunch of work and take a bunch of paneling off, and just kind of explaining how that's a lot of times the problem with the defrost. In this case, that was good, and it was my mode 2 actuator on the bottom left that actually was bad, and I was just kind of explaining on how I pulled that bottom panel out and got that out without actually having to take the dash out, and it took a little bit more work, but I haven't seen a lot of videos on that, so I just kind of want to make that point to make it make more sense for people watching, because it kind of was a little bit all over the place. Hopefully that clears it up a little bit. One more thing that I almost forgot. So I'm going to put this actuator back in and show you one other thing I had to do. And you pretty much have to. Like I said, without having to pull the dash to get to this actuator, you got to do this. So let me get some of this back together and then I'll show you what I did. All right, I got the actuator back in, bolted up. Like I said, can't even tell I bent it out. 2 bolts at the bottom. Nobody can tell any different. Not a big deal. The other thing I had to do that I wanted to mention, you can get down here. So this bottom bolt. So basically what I'm showing you here is that the bottom bolt was not in mine. There was 2 missing on, there's 1 missing on each actuator for mine. So if that bottom bolt is in yours, you're going to have to drill in another hole. I drilled one that I'm going to show you right here in a second to get the 1 screw out. So basically the end of this, it's 2 bolts on the bottom of this metal bracket. You got to pull it back with a pry bar some. You got to drill a hole for this bolt, and then if you have another bolt that's actually installed, you'll have to drill 1 more hole. So in theory, it's the bottom trim. You got to drill 2 holes and bend this bracket out, and you can get this actuator out without actually having to pull the entire dash out to basically fix the problem. So, you know, it's kind of one of those things. Hopefully you guys liked the video. Hopefully this helps somebody out. A little bit of voiceovers here and there. So try to make it the best I could to make the most sense for somebody. So hopefully this is good for you. If you liked it, just like and subscribe, and appreciate you watching.